Hello everybody, this is the third Books and Balance program pre-recorded video, and this week's topic is going to be time management and organization. So today we'll be discussing various strategies for time management, some strategies for organization, some techniques called activity pacing, energy conservation, and time blocking. We'll discuss the importance of taking breaks, and lastly we'll go over the recommended activity for the week. This quote from William Penn truly does summarize kind of the realities of life and time. He said that time is what we want most, but what we use worst. I think it's true that many people struggle and we have difficulty sometimes finding time for things that we need and want to do throughout our day. And we often say that if we had one wish, that we would just wish for more time. So when we talk kind of about time management, we also have to look at just how we're using our time. And honestly, in some instances, we might not be using our time throughout our days most efficiently or most effectively. And by kind of targeting better uses of time and other strategies that maybe we haven't heard before, we can kind of maybe promote better time use during our days and therefore, in turn, kind of promote better life balance too. There are numerous strategies that one can use for time management, so this list is not exhaustive, and what works well for one person may not work for another, so we're just going to cover a variety of ideas for time management techniques that you can try and integrate into your days. Some of them are kind of common sense, but I think when you hear about it, you learn about it, it might kind of stick and resonate with you and might be a strategy that you want to trial. So the first strategy is prioritization. And this just really involves identifying the most important tasks and focusing on those first. And those important tasks might be things that mean a lot to you. Maybe they're a leisure activity, and that's okay. So important tasks are not always paperwork or chores or those things that need to be done. They can be things that you want to do too. And it's okay to prioritize that. And know that, maybe tonight I need 30 minutes to read a good book. And I put leisure time on my to-do list and I prioritize that because that's important for me. And so these first two bullets go together. Once you come up with that list of prioritized tasks and you do that prioritization, you can then look at the time that you have available and you can start kind of planning and scheduling and putting those tasks in. So when you're creating that to-do list and you're scheduling, put in those concrete times that you're going to complete the tasks. And you look at your prioritized list and you start with the things that you absolutely need to get done, those things that you absolutely have to insert into your day. And again, it's important to stress that you can do leisure activities as a priority activity. Your mental and physical health needs leisure, and so you might not have time for everything, and that's okay. So you look at that prioritized list, add them all in. The things that you don't get to at the end, that's okay. You can do those things tomorrow. It's a way of systematically breaking down and prioritizing your list, and we don't have time in our days to do everything, but knowing that you got the most important things done, the things that were most meaningful for you, that's going to be most important and give you the most fulfillment. So I'm going to just give kind of a little bit of example of this prioritization, planning, scheduling, to-do list. So let's say I'm really struggling with getting everything done in my evenings, and I just don't feel like I have enough time. So by the time I get home from work, let's say I have 5 hours before I need to go to bed. I make kind of a mental list of all the things that I have to do and the things that I want to do tonight and how I'm kind of going to prioritize them. So after time reflecting, I know that I need to make time for, here's my list of prioritized items. 1, I need to pick the kids up from school and daycare because my spouse can't and obviously they can't be left there. Super important. 2, grocery shopping because maybe I literally don't have any food left in the house and tonight in order to make a meal I need some food, some substance. 3, making dinner for the family because obviously we need to eat. That's important. 4, exercising because I know I need to prioritize and schedule this. Otherwise it doesn't get done if I just leave it to, I'll just do it at the end of the day. So I have to schedule it. So 4. 5, relax and watch a new TV show that I've been obsessed with. Maybe it's something else leisure related to maybe reading a book or doing a craft or a hobby that you like to do too. But putting that in there, that's important for me tonight. And then 6, paperwork for school, kind of last minute grading maybe. 7, showering. And 8, putting the kids to bed. And I realize that you're going to look at that list and you're probably going to say, putting kids to bed is at the end of your list. That has to be done. The kids have to be put to bed. It does, and I don't argue with that, obviously. But looking at my incredibly busy night, I might need to call in some reinforcement. So maybe I know that my husband doesn't like to cook and do the grocery shopping, but he can easily put the kids to bed. So maybe I'd let him do that last minute putting the kids to bed, and instead I do my last minute paperwork and my grading. And that's how we kind of mesh those. Maybe I don't have time for a full shower tonight, but in order to watch some of my TV show, I just have time to kind of wash my body after I work out. And I know for my sanity that I need that time to watch my TV show and I need that leisure moment. And so I'm willing to sacrifice that full shower. And doing my hair looks like we might just be wearing a clip tomorrow, and that's okay. Maybe I put on a family-friendly exercise video so that I compare doing something with my kids with exercise, and we can all kind of get out some energy together, so I can kind of put things together. And maybe since I'm going grocery shopping and I'm taking the time in my night to do that, while I'm there, pick up a pre-made rotisserie chicken, maybe some bread, microwave vegetables, something super easy, so that way I don't really have to cook tonight. We get home, we eat, so I can kind of eliminate that. It was important that we eat and that I make a meal, but can I shorten those things too? So it's kind of looking at your time intentionally and rearranging things, prioritizing things, and just finding that time to partake in those occupations and being reflective of what time you have, what things you have to get done, and kind of rearranging. And as time goes on, it's obviously not like you're going to have to write down this schedule over and over again, but again, it's just being intentional about that timing process. So you have to look at how much you value the activities that you complete when you're doing this and kind of spend some time accepting that certain tasks might have to wait and you have to prioritize certain things. And so kind of coming to terms with that. The next strategy that we have is distraction management strategies. So these are strategies for those of you that might kind of get distracted easily during completion of tasks. You might not be as effective at completing those tasks. So what could have taken you 10 minutes maybe to fold laundry took you 30 because you were watching TV show at the same time, or maybe you were replying to some text messages or something. So distraction management techniques really involve limiting multitasking. So I'm not saying that it's physically impossible for you to do two things at once. We know that we can. We know we can juggle so many things. Like, we are superheroes sometimes with how many things that we can juggle. But we know that multitasking is not effective, and it's going to be more effective to focus on one task and move on. Multitasking is not as effective. It increases the length of time that it takes you in that activity, and sometimes it is easiest and most efficient to focus on the laundry, get that done in 10 minutes, and then you can actually enjoy your TV show for the other 20 minutes rather than like pairing it with a chore and making it feel like it's something you have to do. So, for example, maybe I'm going to focus on washing those dishes without distractions, and then afterwards I'll watch that 10 minutes of my show instead of having it on in the background and constantly getting. Maybe I'll turn off my phone during certain tasks and avoid checking the time constantly, and I'm just going to work hard, I'm going to be diligent, I'm going to just finish it, and then I can move on to something to reward myself, like checking my phone or watching some things. You can also practice mindfulness to decrease distractions. So we'll specifically talk about all things mindfulness in a future week and actually some concrete mindfulness scripts and things that you can practice. So just stay tuned for that. And then lastly, know your distractions and avoid those distractions. So for example, you might know that sitting at your desk and maybe you're facing the window typically leads to you getting distracted when you're looking outside. So maybe when you're doing your grading right after school, you instead go to the library, or you literally position your chair and physically change your environment in a location that avoids that distraction. You close your door, you go somewhere that you are not going to be bothered so you can get that stuff done fast and get home, get out of here, versus again, that multitasking of all these things that are distracting you or these things that you know are going to create distractions for your task. Another strategy you can do is work on breaking down tasks into more manageable units. So for example, maybe tonight you know that you have to do laundry because you're out of work pants. You need laundry and it's not jeans day tomorrow. But the idea of throwing in all of that laundry and hanging up the laundry items that you don't dry and folding the laundry, maybe that sounds super overwhelming for you. So you go in your hamper tonight and you literally just maybe grab out your work pants and you just watch those. You're going to have less to do the next day then when you finish that laundry, and you kind of broke up that task into something that might be more manageable for you. Another example might be at work. Maybe you have some lesson plans, some worksheets that you need to come up with that you're going to be using 2 weeks from now. And normally maybe you search through and you find your own worksheets, but instead you break it down. Today you find one, you see if your partner teacher can find one, and then maybe tomorrow you find another one. And so what could have taken you maybe 15, 20 minutes today to search for that, you delegated. Your partner teacher maybe took one. It took you only 5 minutes today, 5 minutes tomorrow, and it kind of helps you break it down a little bit. I think it's important to stress that working together is not cheating with your partner teacher. It's not as the same as it was in school. You guys are teachers. You're obviously not held to the same rules that your students are, so you can delegate. You can split up work. You can break down those tasks between the two of you and get that work done together. And so in this setting, I feel like that saying, teamwork makes the dream work, could not be more true, because you guys can help lean on each other to help reduce your workload. So I think that's kind of a beautiful thing about the profession you're in. Time blocking and activity pacing strategies are those last two bullets, and we'll just be discussing those on the coming slides. So for now, we'll kind of skip those and go into more detail in a second. So another strategy for time management is delegation. So I think we often get in the habit in life of really not wanting to ask for help. We want to handle things on our own. We don't want to admit that we could use a little bit of help, and we feel kind of like a burden for asking others for help. And I kind of want to reassure everyone that this was a very common theme when I completed that needs assessment for this program. I heard from numerous people indicating that they all kind of felt like a burden asking for help, that as teachers, we really should be able to handle things on our own. So asking for help kind of brought in that sense of vulnerability. And it's because you're opening up to an area and you're saying, hey, I have a struggle, and that is very vulnerable. But I just want you guys to take a moment and just reframe your thoughts. So when you have these moments where you could use some help, but you're like, no, I don't want to ask for help. I feel like I'm bothering other people. I feel like I'm not a competent teacher. I feel like I'm going to be a burden to others. I just want you to reframe your thoughts and think to yourself. I want you to remember a time when someone came to you. You're doing well, and someone comes, maybe it's a partner teacher, maybe it's just someone else in life, maybe it has nothing to do with work, but they said, I'm struggling so bad and I need help. I feel overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. Like, I am stuck. What did you guys do? Just think back to that. Did you guys laugh at them? Did you afterwards be like, they're such an incompetent teacher? Or did you genuinely feel for them? You understood where they were coming from. Maybe you genuinely wanted to help them. I'm going to guess it's probably the latter. People want to help. They have a genuine desire to help other people. And I put on this slide a little fun fact. It's a trait called altruism. And it's just a very fundamental part of human nature. And research shows us that humans have an innate capacity for empathy and for compassion, which really truly acts us to kind of motivate us to act in ways that benefit others, even when there's maybe no personal gain involved. There's nothing in it for us. So there was actually a study that looked at altruism, and it found that helping someone else triggered an activity in your caudate nucleus and then the anterior cingulate portions of your brain. And these are areas of the brain that turn on when people receive rewards or they experience pleasure in things. And so this basically means that our brains and our bodies are actually wired to respond to people's suffering, and that it genuinely makes us feel good when we can alleviate others' suffering and when we can help them out. So essentially, if you think about it in that way, you're actually helping others and you're making them happy by fulfilling that fundamental trait of altruism by asking them for help when you need a helping hand. So you're helping them, they're helping you. It's kind of a win-win all around. But that's just something to keep in mind, just to delegate certain things if you need it. And then we are going to be discussing the Pomodoro technique, the Eat the Frog, and the Kanban board strategies on the next couple of slides too, so we'll skip those for now. So this is the Pomodoro technique for time management, and this technique involves 5 specific steps. First, you start a 25-minute timer on your phone or your computer when you're working on something, and you work on that task until that alarm sounds. Then you take a 5-minute break. Then you repeat that process for 4 rounds of working 25 minutes, taking a 5-minute short little break, working for 25 minutes, taking a 5-minute break. And after you do 4 rounds of that concept, which is called the Pomodoro, you take a longer 25 to 30-minute break. And then you're going to repeat that until the project's finished or you've finished all the tasks on your to-do list. So that technique can be used for a specific task if it's like a longer task, or if you have a lot of things on your to-do list and you really just have to get some work done and be efficient. So it makes it a lot easier to track your productivity and to get used to taking regular breaks to kind of refocus your life. And it also helps you kind of get better at promoting that single tasking of working on a task, taking that little bit of a break, rather than trying to juggle 8 things at once. So this is the eat the frog strategy. And this is a strategy that's often linked to a saying by Mark Twain. Mark Twain said that if you have to eat a live frog, do it first thing in the morning, and nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day. So that's kind of the gist to this strategy, and it involves starting your day by tackling the most difficult, the least appealing tasks on your to-do list first in that day, so that way all the other tasks on the rest of your day feel easy in comparison and they are way more enjoyable. So it's a way to avoid procrastinating on like a big task or something that you really dislike doing and just getting it over at the start of the day. And it's showing that you can be then more effective later in the day with all those other tasks throughout your day when you don't have that other frog looming over you, so to speak. This next strategy is called the Kanban board technique. And this is a visual technique that was really implemented to improve productivity and kind of efficiency actually at Toyota Automotive in the manufacturing process there. And so to do this strategy, I would recommend getting like a little whiteboard, or you can do a poster, and you're going to divide that board into 4 phases and create columns for each of those phases. So the first phase is the backlog phase. And that's where you kind of can write down your brainstorming tasks and the things that you need to kind of prioritize and kind of start kind of jotting down what you maybe need to do. The second column is where you list the tasks that you're actually going to do that day, and you put them in kind of that final prioritized order that we talked about earlier. And that's kind of where those sticky notes come in too, because throughout the day, the order might change, you might swap things around, and so sticky notes are really easy just to kind of slap around on there. The third column then is the in progress column, or the doing column, where you move items that you're currently working on. Like, I am currently working on grading this, I'm currently working on that. And you move that over there. And then the fourth column is the done column, where you move items that you've completed when you've actually finished them, finalized. So this is a really good strategy because kind of moving those things around and on this whiteboard through those stages to the done category, you can kind of visually see those things getting completed. And you can see those things on your to-do list maybe being longer. And as the day progresses, that can kind of be motivating to see how much that you've actually completed, and you can kind of easily see what's left to do on your list and how much progress that you have made in the day and what you have done throughout the day. You can also kind of modify that board, and instead of 4 columns, you could just do kind of a to-do list, and then you could have the finished and completed list and move them to done. It's just the fact that having that visualization strategy is important. So by physically moving that sticky note into that completed column, you can kind of experience that internal motivation and that mini success of like, I'm slowly chipping away at my to-do list today, and it makes you feel sometimes motivated and good. So activity pacing is a technique that's often used for individuals with chronic pain, but it can be very useful for the general population as well, for those that might experience fatigue or they just want to manage their energy levels a little bit better. So it involves strategically alternating periods of activity with periods of rest breaks in order to avoid overexertion and manage fatigue symptoms effectively. It involves being aware of your energy level, how much energy you expend with various tasks, when you should kind of schedule those tasks in your day based on knowing what your energy reserve is and how much you have to give, and then knowing how to break up tasks that might cause too much fatigue and might drain your energy. So it has so many benefits, including improved energy management throughout the day, reduced stress from feeling overwhelmed with tasks, enhanced productivity because you're able to focus on the intentional completion of certain tasks during energy bursts, or what we call periods of peak energy time. You can kind of plan that out ahead and be strategic about that. And then an increased ability to recover from physical exertion as well by using this strategy. Activity pacing looks super different for every person, and it involves just spending time reflecting on how much energy you have to give, what times of the day you have more energy to give, and then scheduling tasks around that available energy. So I do want to take a moment to discuss something that's called a MET level. This stands for metabolic equivalent, and it's a unit that's used to quantify the energy expenditure of certain tasks and physical activities. So to kind of keep this simple, different tasks have different MET levels. So 1 MET is your resting state. This is you're sitting on the couch watching TV, you are not doing any movement. Less than 3 METs is considered a light intensity activity, that's like walking slowly. 3 to 6 METs are moderate intensity activities like briskly walking or swimming. And then greater than 6 METs is a vigorous activity like running or jumping rope. Some of these numbers with these METs and the delineating the different levels can differ depending on the source that you use, but it essentially just helps you look at how much energy that's required for certain tasks and how much energy you have during the times of day and how you can kind of substitute those in and out and pay attention to that when you're activity pacing. So this week I've included a chart that just kind of outlines various MET levels for common tasks, just for your guys' reference if you are interested. But you can use that knowledge of METs and your daily energy levels to really just help you plan out your day and help you do this activity pacing. So I'm going to give an example of this. So for example, I know in the morning that I have way more energy than at the end of the day. So I know that doing my walking workout on a treadmill is probably going to be around a moderate intensity activity based on the METs. And I'm going to choose to wake up 30 minutes earlier to do my workout in the morning because I know that that is when I have more energy in my energy reserve to give to that higher MET level activity. And at the end of the school day, when I know that my energy is almost depleted, I know I need to do some cleaning, like vacuuming, so I'm going to save some of those things for that specific time because it's a lower MET activity. Vacuuming is like approximately 2.6 METs. So to be clear, you don't need to memorize MET levels. You don't need to calculate them, Google them. What's the MET level for this, for doing dishes? You don't need to do that to do activity pacing, but it just involves being aware of how much energy you have, strategically planning out your day if you know that you get fatigued really easily, so that you can get the things that you need to get done and the things that you want to get done in a very smart and strategic way that doesn't drain you. We do know that persistent chronic fatigue can lead to burnout, so this strategy just really helps us kind of avoid this. We know that energy conservation techniques pair really well with activity pacing. And so to keep this kind of simple, energy conservation techniques are strategies that we can do to reduce the MET levels or the energy requirements of certain tasks throughout our day, as well as reduce the load that those tasks have on our body. So if we know we are feeling so drained on a certain day, and that partaking in some of these strategies to reduce the required energy that that task takes, I can do that so that I can still keep some of that energy in my reserve and I don't completely drain myself, leading to burnout. So I do want to provide a little bit of a disclaimer though. So for the general population, you don't necessarily want to do these strategies each and every day. As we recall last week, we often need to pair common household tasks like doing dishes with movement and activity in order to maybe increase our physical activity and the benefits that come along with that. So this strategy is primarily just for those days when you are maybe feeling very incredibly fatigued. You know that you are almost near burnout and you just need to be able to manage your energy levels better because we know physical activity is good for us. We know that energy expenditure is good for us, but this is for those moments when we feel like that battery is really drained and we need to do something to preserve that. Another example of kind of how we can actually pair activity pacing, energy conservation with exercise is maybe I know that I am exhausted at the end of this workday and I still want to do a little bit of exercise because that's something that I've been prioritizing, but I feel so drained. My battery is low. So maybe when I'm doing dishes, I sit on a chair to reduce the energy expenditure of that task, or when I'm cooking, I sit on a chair because we know that sitting uses less energy than standing. And so I can reduce the energy expenditure when it comes to those tasks so that later in the evening I have enough reserve in my energy level that I'm able to do maybe a 20 to 30 minute workout. And sure, that workout is going to take a lot of energy out of me, but because I was able to save some of that for later, it's more manageable and it's more doable. You can also reduce the energy requirement of tasks by either changing the task itself or you can modify the environment too. So I put some examples of some ways that we can do energy conservation. One of these is delegating tasks. Ask for help with tiring activities if you know that you're having a super fatiguing day. You can also use organization techniques like organizing your kitchen to keep commonly used items a little bit lower so you can avoid the lifting, the walking back and forth in the kitchen, and that reduces the energy expenditure for cooking, for example. You can do time management techniques like using a planner to write out your to-do list and afterwards look at it. Make sure that multiple very high energy consuming events don't happen too close together because you can look at it and say, those things are really exhausting and they're right after each other. Maybe I break them up to make that more manageable. You can simplify tasks like breaking down time consuming activities into smaller steps. So maybe instead of cleaning the whole bathroom today and I spending that hour deep cleaning, Instead, I do the toilet today, tomorrow the shower, the next day the sink until the whole bathroom's done. Much more manageable, lower energy cost. You can take a seat during certain activities like cooking, folding laundry, doing the dishes. As we said before, standing requires more energy expenditure than sitting. Paying attention to the climate is really important. So temperatures below 20 degrees Fahrenheit or higher than 80 degrees Fahrenheit with increased humidity increase energy expenditure. So you can try to kind of control the environment just a little bit. So maybe when you're working out, you have a fan near you, you keep the room a little bit cooler. When you're showering, maybe instead of a super hot shower, you take a warm shower, because even though it might be super relaxing to take a super hot shower, it actually does expend more energy and it might fatigue you more. So just kind of paying attention to those things. You should also pay attention to proper body mechanics, use good standing, sitting posture during the day, avoid twisting your back. When you're lifting, bend at those hips and knees with your legs instead of your back. Proper ergonomics is also really important for energy conservation. So ergonomics is the science of adapting equipment and techniques during the day to kind of prevent that injury and that stress. And that can include fatigue too, to prevent fatigue. And so at the end of the program, I will have a page on the website for this that has some ergonomic suggestions just to kind of help you guys design your workspace with these strategies in mind. It wasn't something that was necessarily identified in the needs assessment, but throughout coming into your guys' classroom, seeing some things, I will just provide some strategies for you guys in case you are interested. A good night's sleep also helps to really maximize those energy levels. And then lastly, optimizing community access can help you reduce energy expenditure too. So you can park closer to that store entrance to kind of decrease the walking distance, or at the store using a cart instead of a basket, because lifting a basket actually requires more. So even if you have a few items, use a rolly cart. That helps reduce. But I do want to stress that I know that these energy conservation techniques are very opposite to what we talked about last week on ways to increase physical activity. So you don't want to necessarily be using these strategies all the time, as they can lead to some deconditioning if you use them improperly. But really on those fatiguing days when you feel burnt out, just use them to help you maintain that energy, avoid that energy depletion and that burnout. The strategy of time blocking is essentially becoming more aware of how you use your time and scheduling out your day, and the time that you spend on certain tasks and activities to kind of increase your efficiency and your productivity. So to kind of get started, they recommend dividing each day into smaller blocks of time, and then you kind of estimate how much of that time a task will reasonably take you to complete, and you assign them to the various time blocks that are in your schedule. You write them down, and you're paying attention. You're being sure to also include breaks and schedule those in between those tasks, and then you work through your daily schedule. And if certain tasks maybe take a little bit more time than you anticipated, you just adjust those time blocks accordingly. It might be difficult to do this technique of time blocking at work, as your schedules are always changing, and it's kind of difficult to be like, at this specific time, I'm going to spend this much time on that. But this strategy really doesn't need to be done for an entire 24 hours either. So I would recommend instead maybe just time blocking in something that you need to do throughout the week, a task that you need to prioritize, or maybe time blocking in leisure. So at the start of the week, you could grab out that piece of paper. I've provided a chart for you this week as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But maybe your goal is for 3 times this week, I'm going to engage in a leisure activity. So you jot those down on that paper. You identify when you're going to do that, what specific time, what you are going to do during those blocks. And then you give that paper to your spouse. You hang it on the fridge. You put it somewhere where it acts as a reminder for you that this week you've already put this aside. You have time blocked this into your schedule. It is a done deal. And these specific times are dedicated solely to that activity or that task that you outlined. And so this may kind of be the motto of this program, but again, I want to say, if you didn't document it, it didn't happen. So making this time blocking schedule, you are documenting this time block, you are prioritizing it, and you are making yourself accountable for upholding and reserving that time for that very specific task. Breaks can truly be so incredibly beneficial for our overall well-being and productivity. They can help reduce and prevent stress, reduce the energy recovery that's maybe needed after a really long work day, so we don't have to spend as much time recouping if we're feeling drained. It helps us increase our energy levels at work, decrease exhaustion, and also helps us reset our mood too. So very important for our overall well-being. There was a study that looked at mini breaks throughout the workday, and it was showing that These mini breaks support well-being and they increase our overall productivity. And they define a mini break as just even a simple few minutes away from your work. You can chat with a coworker or maybe get a quick drink from the water fountain super fast. And it's important for us to realize that you guys give kids breaks all the time throughout the day. They get sensory breaks, movement breaks, snack breaks, water breaks, bathroom breaks. You guys deserve these little moments as well throughout the day. And so some tips to make sure that you guys prioritize breaks and actually take them is to have and schedule set break times. Set an alarm to remind you. Use one of the timers that you have in your classroom. Use post-it notes to write down little reminders for breaks too. So I recommend, this is kind of a fun strategy, the sticky note strategy, and you say at the start of the day, I'm going to take 3 breaks today. And on 3 sticky notes, you write specific ideas for what you're going to do for those 3 breaks. Maybe that be taking a water break, doing a fast walk, going to the restroom. Or maybe even on the breaks, you don't want to specifically delineate what you're going to do. So instead, you just write a simple 1, 2, 3 on the sticky notes. And when you get to that break, you decide what you want to complete. But during the day then, when you take a break, you crumple up that sticky note and you throw it away. You place those sticky notes on a spot on your desk, on a spot on the wall, somewhere that you are going to see them, and it is going to act as a visual reminder for you to take those little breaks throughout the day. And at the end of the day, your goal is to get through all those breaks, finish all of those breaks so you don't have any sticky notes left on your desk. And then just kind of be reflective of how did those breaks make you feel. So this is just a really nice visual strategy for reminding yourself to prioritize taking those little breaks throughout the day, because we do know that they significantly benefit your well-being and productivity. Something that often goes hand in hand with time management is organization strategies. So on this slide, I've put in a few resources and ideas for you all just related to organization. One of these is investing in a good calendar tool that works for you. So this can be a paper calendar, a printed calendar, or a digital calendar. Digital calendars have a plus in that they can also help you set reminders for things and send you notifications for things. It's also important to keep your workspace very clear of clutter, so come up with a filing system that works well for you. That might be folders, binders. It might also be digitizing paper copies of things and worksheets, so you can keep them as PDFs on your computer instead of having that paper copy taking up space in your cabinets or in your desk. I've researched and I found a few good apps and specific planners that teachers have found effective, and I've included those links on this page as well for you guys. I also have put these links on the website at the end of the program so you will have access to them. But one of these is Google Calendar. So you can have multiple calendars with Google and you can select which ones that you see. You can very easily share your calendar with other people, like a teacher partner, so you could both collaborate on lessons and, hey, this is what we're going to do for this and with these students, so that you're both on the same page, you both have it in one place shared. And it can be really good for personal use too. So for example, I have a work Google Calendar and I schedule a bunch of employees for shifts. And so I've shared that with them so everyone knows when they work. I can see when people are supposed to work. I'm able to navigate that aspect. I also have a personal Google Calendar that I use to keep track of engagements and appointments. So the work calendar is shared with everyone at my work so that when I edit it, they can see it. My personal is not shared, so they don't see any of that. And then I have a school Google Calendar that I use as well to keep track of due dates for assignments, dates and times of classes, where I need to be for that. And I can sync all of them up so I can see it on one schedule with all of them. I can select if I maybe want school and the personal one on there. I can put those on there. I could see only one. You can really modify it to what suits your needs. And I can also set reminders too for events and for notifications as I approach these things. So I get a message on my phone, hey, you work today in 2 hours. Like, it gives me those pre-warnings for things, so that's kind of neat as well. I find that I like Google Calendar just a little bit better than Outlook Calendar. I've tried Outlook before and I liked the format of Google a little bit better, so that's why I use it. So I thought I would just recommend that for you guys. I also know you guys are all familiar with Outlook Calendar. They have options for sharing meetings too. I know that Roosevelt uses this platform very frequently and it's a great platform. I just kind of found that Google Calendar worked for me a little bit better, but Outlook Calendar is a great platform as well. Planbook is an online lesson planning tool. It has a cost after a 90 free day trial. It was $20 for 1 year when I researched this just the other day. So if it's useful for you, I feel like that's a relatively reasonable price, $20 for a year, but it is an online lesson planning tool that teachers have found effective online. Trello is another teacher-friendly coursework and lesson planning app. It helps you with classroom organization, helps you with your planning, and that one looked to be free. And lastly, I've included a paper teacher planner called the Happy Planner Teachers Edition. And this is really great for teachers as it has specific tabs with monthly calendars, lesson plan pages. You have checklists in the back that you can use to track student data in. You can take the pages out and put them back in and rearrange them. You can add pages if you have a puncher for it. And it has plenty of space to be able to let you write your lesson plans in. There's different covers and themes. You can buy stickers, those types of things too. And it also has areas each month for you to be able to take notes too. So if you prefer paper lesson plans and schedules, this specific planner might be really helpful for you. And it kind of seems to have everything in it, from an area to track that student data to keeping track of lesson plans and your schedule as well. So the first thing this week that I want to ask you guys all to do is fill out the organization and time management recommendations Microsoft form that I sent out. So I'm not a teacher, so in order for me to provide you with even more effective time management organization recommendations and suggestions, I just want feedback from teachers and staff here at Roosevelt. So different strategies work for different people, so I do ask that you fill out this form by Friday, February 28th, and I will compile all the suggestions into a document for teachers to be able to reference so that you can learn from your fellow teachers and you can help each other out by sharing strategies that you find helpful. Because honestly, who knows? Maybe it's a perfect suggestion for someone else that they've never thought of before and you were able to help them with that. The next recommended activity for this week is filling out the time blocking worksheet. It's a very simple sheet that involves making a time blocking goal for this upcoming week. So I've attached a blank worksheet that you can print out and you can fill in. And on this slide, I've included an example of a filled out worksheet with that time blocking goal. So I said this week I'm going to prioritize personal leisure time. And in order to not feel guilty about taking this time, I've put it in a time blocking goal. I've scheduled it out. Maybe I know I can't do it Monday and Wednesday night because I work. So I'm going to time block and prioritize leisure time on Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday. And I specifically put what I'm going to do underneath the activity and task column, the time that I'm going to do it. And I have a marking complete area on that side too. So I know that I can prioritize that a little alone time in my life. And I know that I'm also going to add those things into my Google Calendar or whatever scheduling thing that I use, because it is okay to take time for yourself. It is okay to schedule in leisure time, time for doing those things that you want to do. And we know that if we don't schedule those times for ourselves, it often doesn't happen. We know life gets super busy. And so make a plan, time block it into your schedule this week. Try one type of thing, one area. Maybe that's leisure time, or maybe it's something that you need to do too. Like, I'm going to get cleaning done, and this day I'm going to spend 30 minutes on that. Maybe it's something more concrete like that as well. But leisure is a great thing to time block into your week. And here are the references that I used for this week's content. I just want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this week's voiceover. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, please just contact me using my contact information on this slide. Thanks for listening.